What's good, everybody? Welcome to a video on magnesium. Just a friendly reminder before we get started, you can listen to this on 2x speed. Now, magnesium is the fourth most common cation in the human body. 60% is stored in the bone, 30% in the muscle, and 10% in serum. And its elimination is regulated via the kidney. Magnesium has a myriad of functions in the body. This includes maintaining the integrity of your bone structure, proper blood vessel dilation, maintaining electrolyte gradients, and a calm mind and body. It also regulates potassium and calcium concentrations, and most importantly, it stabilizes ATP for use in reaction. ATP is arguably the most important molecule in your body. It's used as energy in virtually every chemical reaction. The whole reason that we eat food is for that food to go through glycolysis, electron transport chain in order to create ATP. So we'll go a little bit more in depth on ATP in the next slide. But the other biochemistry going on here, magnesium encourages vasodilation by being used as a cofactor to create nitric oxide. Furthermore, it decreases the amount of calcium that is present in the muscle cell so that there is a dampened contraction response. Now, I had a previous video on how muscle contraction works physiologically, but just a quick reminder that the less calcium that you have in a muscle cell, the weaker the contraction, and the more calcium, the stronger contraction that a muscle will have. Because blood vessels are smooth muscles, it's not an all or nothing like a skeletal muscle, where it's either contracting or it's not. So in this case, if there's less calcium, the vessel is dilated because it's relaxed, it becomes bigger. And if there's more calcium in the blood vessel muscle cell, then it will constrict the blood vessel. Magnesium also regulates potassium secretion, manipulating the peritubular capillaries in the kidney. Furthermore, regulates calcium concentration by acting as a cofactor for parathyroid hormone secretion. A reminder that parathyroid hormone is released when you have low serum calcium levels in order to kind of chop up the calcium and chip off some calcium from your bones to be released into your blood to raise your calcium levels. Oftentimes, one of the only serum markers that you'll see indicating that you have magnesium is that you have low calcium. One of the most interesting, I think, effects magnesium has is agonist properties that it has on the GABA receptor, as well as the antagonist properties that it has on the NMDA receptor. And just thinking about that in previous videos on neurons, this makes neurons less likely to fire, which kind of calms things down, makes you less likely to be anxious, makes you less likely to have seizures, and this is why magnesium is actually a very good sleep aid, and that's one of the primary things that I've noticed since taking it. Last, magnesium has a very interesting effect on atherosclerosis, or the development of plaque in the arteries, because it actually decreases the inflammatory response present in the blood vessels, which is kind of required in order to form the plaque. So it helps prevent atherosclerosis both through this kind of prevention of inflammation, as well as the vasodilation and being elastic as opposed to hard. It was stated before that magnesium is required to stabilize ATP for all reactions in the body, and that's what you can see on the left here in this white area. So this whole big molecule is ATP, and then you can see that magnesium here with its 2+ positive charge actually stabilizes these 2 negative charges on 2 of the phosphates, so that this last negative charge on this phosphate can interact with the ATPase pump that you see over here. So this little area over here that the ATP connects to this phosphate group at the end, and it can only do so because of the stabilization by magnesium here. And so this quick sentence kind of summarizes what a sodium potassium ATPase pump does. It moves sodium and calcium out of the cell and potassium into the cell. Keeping all that in mind, we can extrapolate what occurs in a pacemaker or a neuron. I've included an image from a previous video on how a neuron works. Just a reminder, the inside of the neuron has potassium and the outside has sodium, so it's like a salty banana. And the resting charge of a neuron is -70 millivolts. In order to have an action potential, meaning that a signal from one neuron travels down its axon and to another neuron, you have to have an action potential. So an increase in positive charge and ions are flowing down the axon, releasing neurotransmitters to connect to the other neuron. When this occurs, sodium is flowing into the neuron and potassium is flowing out of the neuron. And so at the very end of an action potential, you'll have an excessive amount of sodium on the inside of the neuron. And so the sodium-potassium ATPase pump will help to get it back to a normal -70 millivolt gradient by pumping the sodium out of the cell to get back to -70. So if this sodium-potassium ATPase pump isn't working properly, you have a lot more sodium stuck inside of the neuron, meaning that instead of having a -70 resting membrane potential, slowly this is going to creep up and up and up until your neurons and your pacemaker cells will essentially have a 0 resting voltage, which means that it doesn't have any electric potential energy to convert into a signal to tell your heart to beat and to tell your muscles to contract, to see, to smell, anything. And so this leads to arrhythmias and cardiac arrest as this -70 millivolts is upset and slowly raises towards 0. It's kind of apparent, after going through the biochemical mechanisms of what magnesium does, what the consequences of magnesium deficiency would be. You have hypertension, due to loss of elasticity in your blood vessels, atherosclerosis due to lack of elasticity, as well as increased inflammation, arrhythmias that we just talked about, and then poor sleep and poor energy, because if ATP doesn't have enough magnesium to stabilize the various ATP molecules in your body, then you can't use it at all for energy to move and to think and to do anything that you want to do in this life. Well, I hope this has been informative, and have a good rest of your day.